The night an empire ran away. There is a woman screaming inside a carriage. She is 72 years old. She is soaked to the skin, and she is the Queen of Portugal. For 15 years, she has been mad. She wanders her palace at night, telling the servants that she is already burning in hell. Tonight, those servants have pulled her out of bed, wrapped her in a blanket, and carried her into the rain. She is certain she is being kidnapped. She screams the entire way to the harbor. And then, through the window, she sees them. Thousands of people running alongside her horses in the dark. Not attacking, weeping, begging her not to leave them. And the mad queen goes completely silent. She leans forward and gives the coachman one order. Don't drive so fast. They will think we are fleeing. They are fleeing. Behind her, in that harbor, 36 ships are swallowing an entire empire. Not an army. Not a government with a suitcase of papers. All of it. The royal family, the ministers, the judges, the treasury, the archives, the church. 10,000 courtiers. By sunrise they will be gone, and the capital of the Portuguese Empire will exist somewhere else on earth. It will be in Rio de Janeiro, and for the next 13 years, a colony in South America will govern the European country that created it. This has never happened before in human history. It has never happened since. The man who ordered all of this is her son. His name is Dom João, and nobody in Europe thinks much of him. He is heavy, slow, painfully shy, and known across the continent for exactly one thing. He cannot make a decision. He agrees with whoever spoke to him last. He signs nothing while waiting is still an option. His entire court has spent years building routines around this one flaw. And in 1807, this man receives the worst choice in Europe. Napoleon writes first, close your ports to Britain. Arrest every Englishman in Portugal. Take their property. Do it, or I invade. Then Britain writes, the British Navy is the only reason Portugal's empire still functions. Every route to Brazil, to Africa, to India runs under British guns. Obey Napoleon, they say, and we will take your fleet and your colonies ourselves. Portugal is a small country holding an enormous empire. Both superpowers have now promised, in writing, to destroy it. So João does the only thing he has ever been good at, nothing. He agrees with everyone. He commits to no one. He waits. And for months, the most indecisive man in Europe holds both great powers frozen in place, simply by refusing to answer either of them. Then a newspaper arrives from Paris. Inside it is one printed line. The House of Braganza has ceased to reign in Europe. Read that sentence again, because João did. Napoleon has not threatened to remove his family from the throne. Napoleon has announced that it has already happened, and the French army is not on its way. It is inside the country, 25,000 men under General Junot, moving through winter mud toward Lisbon, which is when the man who could never decide anything makes the biggest decision any European monarch has ever made. If the empire cannot survive in Europe, then the empire will leave Europe. There is a plan for this, technically. For more than a century, Portuguese kings have kept a file, a proposal to move the throne to Brazil if the country is ever lost. Every generation reads it. Every generation puts it back in the drawer. Nobody believes anyone will ever be desperate enough to use it. The court now has about 1 week. Quick thing before the ships leave. If you like history that sounds completely invented but isn't, subscribe. I find these for a living, and most people have never heard a single one of them. Now, the docks. What happens there is one of the strangest scenes in European history. Cold November rain, torchlight. 36 ships and nowhere near enough room on any of them. The treasury goes aboard first. By some accounts, half of all the coined money in the entire country. Then the state archives. Then the contents of the palaces. Then the silver stripped from the churches. Crates are stacked faster than anyone can record what is inside them. And then the people arrive, because a place on a ship is survival, and a place on the dock is Napoleon. Aristocrats fight each other for deck space. Furniture is thrown into the harbor to make room for bodies. Families are separated in the crush and will not see each other again for years. And 60,000 books, the entire Royal Library of Portugal, are carried down to the water and left standing there in the rain. Nobody has a ship for them. One librarian will spend the following years crossing the Atlantic 3 separate times to bring them over, volume by volume. He succeeds. On the 29th of November, the wind finally turns. The fleet moves out. The next morning, Junot's soldiers march into Lisbon, filthy, exhausted, victorious. They climb the hills above the city and look out at the water. The sails are still visible on the horizon. Napoleon has conquered Portugal and captured absolutely nothing. The prize left with the weather. The crossing takes 2 months, and it is a floating disaster. Ships built for short coastal runs are packed to the rails with people who have never been to sea. Water is rationed. Food rots as the fleet moves south into the heat. And then the lice arrive. They spread through the powdered wigs of the Portuguese nobility until only one solution is left. On the deck of a warship in the middle of the Atlantic, the great ladies of the court shave their heads. The wigs go over the side. The most fashionable women in Portugal reach the tropics bald, wrapped in improvised turbans, in gowns stiff with dried salt. They have lost their homes, their country, and their hair. They are the lucky ones. When the fleet reaches Brazil, the colony goes into shock. In 300 years, no reigning European monarch has ever set foot in the Americas. Not one, not once. And this is not a visit. Rio de Janeiro, in 1808, is a port town of roughly 60,000 people, more than half of them enslaved. There is no palace, no printing press, no university, no bank. By law, the colony is forbidden from manufacturing almost anything. Its entire purpose is to send wealth to Lisbon and ask no questions. This town has just been made the capital of a global empire. The housing problem is solved with chalk. Royal officials walk the streets and mark the best houses with 2 letters, P.R., Príncipe Regente. The families inside have days to get out, and the people of Rio immediately decide the letters stand for something else. Ponha-se na rua, put yourself in the street. This is where the story stops being a disaster and starts being something else entirely. Because the runaway prince starts signing things. Within days of landing, João opens Brazil's ports to trade with all friendly nations. 1 signature. 3 centuries of colonial monopoly, gone. Then the rest of the restrictions fall like dominoes. Factories, legal. The colony's first printing press. A bank. A naval academy, a medical school, a military academy. A botanical garden, planted with royal palms that are still standing today. An opera house, because a capital is expected to have one. Rio doubles in size within a decade. The town that was forbidden to print a book is now printing its own newspapers. And in 1815, João does something even stranger. He raises Brazil from a colony to a kingdom, legally equal to Portugal itself. The empire is renamed the United Kingdom of Portugal, Brazil, and the Algarves. Its capital is in South America. A year later, his mother finally dies in Rio, still mad, still certain she is in hell, and João is crowned king in America, the only European monarch ever crowned in the New World. By now, Napoleon is finished. Waterloo is over. Europe is safe. Lisbon waits for its king to come home. He doesn't, because here is the part Portugal does not want to say out loud. João likes it here. The man they mocked as dull and fat is genuinely happy in Rio. Walking the gardens, handing out roast chicken he keeps in the pockets of his coat, running a world empire with a view of the sea. He stays 6 more years after the danger has passed. Meanwhile, across the ocean, Portugal begins to experience something new. Its trade has collapsed because Brazilian ports no longer need Lisbon for anything. Its army is commanded by a British general. Its money, its courts, and every decision that matters are made in another hemisphere. Portugal has become a colony of its own colony. In 1820, Lisbon revolts and demands its king back. João delays for months, obviously, and then boards a ship in tears. 4,000 people sail home with him, along with whatever is left of the treasury. But he leaves his son Pedro behind as regent, with one final piece of advice. If Brazil moves toward independence, do not fight it. Put the crown on your own head before some adventurer picks it up off the ground. It takes 18 months. In 1822, beside a stream called Ipiranga, Pedro draws his sword and declares Brazil independent. The son becomes emperor of Brazil. The father remains king of Portugal. The empire did not lose Brazil in a war. It moved in, fell in love, and the house kept the family. Napoleon never got the fleet, the treasury, or the crown. What his invasion actually built was modern Brazil, its banks, its presses, its academies, its capital city. And Rio de Janeiro is still the answer to the best trick question in history. Name the only city outside Europe that has ever been the capital of a European empire. It sits under Sugarloaf Mountain, lined with royal palms planted by a king who ran away. For 13 years, it ruled the country that built it. If this is the kind of story you want more of, subscribe. There is a new one every week. And the next one is stranger than this.